Hello, everyone. My name is Amira, and I am here to tell a story with Miss Fox.
Wow, okay, you're very excited. This is my friend Amira. She is a doctor.
Yeah, and I just want to remind everyone to wash your hands for at least 20 seconds after you go to the bathroom and before you eat and when you come inside from playing.
Yes, I'm sure they all know that. I'm glad that you want to make sure they still know, but we're here to tell stories, not give health information.
Oh, I'm sorry, everyone. I just get so excited when it comes to washing hands. I'm an expert at it.
Yes, you were showing me how to wash your hands before.
Yes, I was. Okay, everyone. I am very excited to share a childhood favorite of mine.
And of mine.
Oh, yes, and of Miss Fox's. It is called The Bungling Ballerinas. Show her the book, Miss Fox.
Okay. The Bungling Ballerinas, written and illustrated by Ellen Shire.
Oh, Ellen, she's so great. She just wrote the best book on ballerinas. I love ballerinas.
All right, are you ready to get started?
Yes, I am.
The New York City Fiesta Theater. It was in the middle of a successful season of the New York Fiesta Ballet that strange things began to happen. Tutus disappeared and then suddenly reappeared after a few days, not just ordinary tutus, but those of the French prima ballerina associate Annabella Bambolova. Awful. Can't believe it. The wardrobe ladies became very upset. The one who seemed most upset of all was Regina de la Crêpe, head wardrobe mistress and a friend of Annabella's from Paris. As a young girl, Regine had wanted to be a ballerina more than anything in the world. She had even started lessons, but her father needed her help in his restaurant, so while she never stopped practicing entirely, her ballet career gave way to soufflés. The years went by until one day Annabella Bambolova, who was then appearing at the Paris Opera, made a grand entrance into the restaurant. Regine was thrilled and got up the courage to tell the great star how much she admired her dancing.
I love the ballet,
she said,
and I'd do anything to be a part of that world.
Bambolova, who had just signed to star with the Fiesta Ballet, was flattered by Regine's attention and said to her, "Do you know how to sew and use an iron?"
"Why, yes,"
Regine replied. "Then you shall come to New York as my personal wardrobe mistress." And so began Regine's life in the theater. Regine worked very hard and soon became head wardrobe mistress. She never failed, however, to watch every performance of the great Bambolova from the wings. Now, just a year from the time Annabella had become a star with the Fiesta Ballet, her tutus began to disappear and her nerves began to fray. One day, Bambolova's costume for Giselle was missing and didn't show up until 5 minutes before the curtain. Bambolova was distraught, and the director of the company, Cecile Buttonseam, tore at some of his few remaining hairs. Bambolova was so agitated that she began to shake from nervousness, but the helpful Regine brought her a special drink made of carrot juice and French coffee.
"Drink this carrot, madame," she said. "It will calm your nerves and give you strength." "What do you think of my accent?"
"Oh, I think it's changing every minute."
"I'm trying new things, okay?"
"Okay." But Annabella's tutus kept disappearing and her nerves kept deteriorating. Regine gave her more and more carrot cafe in an arabesque one night in the middle of Nutcracker. Pas de deux, Annabella's left knee nearly gave out. Rodney Vanilla, the premier danseur, had an awful time partnering her. And complained to Cecil Buttonseam after the performance. "A wet noodle," he cried. "First, you carry on because your tutus come and go," Cecile snapped at Annabella. "And now you dance like a wet noodle? And your skin, what a peculiar color it's turning. Do you think the public wants to see an orange sleeping beauty? Or a swan lake who looks like she should be put through a juice squeezer?" At this insult, Annabella, being of temperamental French blood, had a fit backstage and flung her tiara wildly, just missing the stage manager. She huffed off to her dressing room, where the ever-present Regine gave her more carrot café to calm her nerves. Even Annabella's bar work began to falter. The ballet mistress would scream, "Do you call that an extension?" Annabella's nerves got worse, and her intake of carrot café, which Regine gave her so willingly, increased. When Annabella's favorite Swan Lake tutu disappeared only for 2 days and reappeared only after the curtain had been held for 20 minutes, she finished off half a bottle of carrot café and became such a wobbly swan queen that Rodney refused to dance with her again. Cecil told her, "You are no swan, you are a duck à l'orange." Annabelle, humiliated, packed up and left for Paris immediately. Rodney said, "Au revoir," with a slight sneer and waved one of his developed feet in the air. Regine wondered, aloud, who would star now. The company became depressed. People began to quarrel. "Enough," screamed Cecile. "Flora Flop will take over Bombalova's parts." What do you think Flora Flop feels about this situation? Does not look good. Flora Flop was the rising young ballerina of the company. She had understudied most of Bombalova's roles. Now she had to rehearse them for many long hours. Sometimes Flora was so tired and hungry, she wished she could put her feet up and eat a quart of ice cream. How Flora loved sweets. But ballerinas are not supposed to eat goodies, so Flora had to settle for carrots and go on working.
I just want to make sure that everyone knows you can have sweets sometimes, just not all the time. I don't think she knew that.
Yeah, I'm glad that you told her that, but we're still reading the book, okay?
Okay, just making sure you all know how to stay healthy.
Okay, thank you. At Flora's debut, Regine offered her carrot café to calm her nerves, but Flora politely refused, saying she only liked sweets. Flora was a huge success. Rodney stopped grunting and grumbling. Cecil sighed with relief and let his few remaining hairs grow longer. But Regine sighed deeply and plunged her needle into the hem of another costume. One evening, after a long warm-up for the performance of Giselle, in which she was to dance with Vasily Gottlieb, the visiting Russian guest star, Flora was walking back to her dressing room. As she passed the canteen, she was stopped in her tracks by the most delicious aroma that she had ever smelled. Flora pushed the door open. There she found Regine de la Crête busily cooking something round and flat and golden. "What are you making?" she asked.
"This is a special French delicacy, a crepe," said Regina. "Try one."
Flora was sorely tempted, but she had to refuse. "I'm not supposed to eat desserts," she groaned.
"Don't be silly," cried Regine. "This is not like ordinary dessert. It is lighter than air, softer than cotton, and sweeter than honey. It will make you feel like a petite cloud. Take one little bite."
Flora could not refuse so tempting an offer and bit off a small piece. Never had she tasted anything so delicious. "Why, "It is lighter than air," she cried, taking another bite and then another. The crepe disappeared quickly.
"That was crepe with strawberry. Now try the apricot,"
said Regine, temptingly. Flora found the apricot even better than the strawberry, and the apple even better than the apricot. Half a dozen crepes later, a voice cried over the speaker, 15 minutes to curtain." Flora took a last delectable gulp and hurried back to her dressing room. That night, Flora's tutu felt a little tight, and 2 of its snaps popped, hitting Vasily in the nose. He was so startled he nearly fell in the middle of a grand jeté. All through the pas de deux, Flora's snaps kept popping, and Vasily had to hold up not only Flora, but her costume as well. By the time Act 1 was over, Flora came down with a terrible stomachache. She could not go on for Act 2. Weeping, she blamed Vasily for squeezing her too hard when he lifted her. Vasily retorted, "How else do you expect me to lift an elephant?" Cecil was at his wit's end. "What am I to do?" he cried. "There are no more understudies to step in."
"Excuse me, maestro, but I know all the parts,"
said an assured voice from the wings. It was Regine de la Crêpe. Cecil was stunned. "But you can't dance," he cried, "and we don't have any costumes to fit you." Regine stepped out of the shadows in a perfect-fitting Giselle Act 2 costume. She showed Cecil a few steps. "Anything is better than nothing," Cecil exclaimed. "Ring up the curtain." Regine saved the day, although she wasn't a sensation, and Flora went home in disgrace. Vasily sneered, "Dos vidania doubling." Cecil was happy at the thought of finishing out the season, but both Rodney and Vasily complained to one another about partnering a wardrobe ballerina. Flora, feeling very despondent, decided to take a trip to Paris to drown her sorrows in delicious crepes. One afternoon, while walking along a boulevard near the Paris Opera, whom should she see at a cafe but Annabella Bambalova, no longer orange, drowning her sorrows in a bottle of champagne. The 2 former ballerinas were happy to see one another, and Annabella invited Flora to stay with her at her villa. On the way to the villa, Annabella bought a copy of World Ballet News. On the front page was a picture of Regine de la Crêpe, new prima ballerina of the Fiesta Ballet. "Regine?" cried Annabella. Flora explained what had happened and how Regine had stepped into the leading roles. "I see it all now," yelled Annabella. "No wonder she told you that crepes were lighter than air and that Care de Café was good for my nerves. It was a plot to get rid of us and take over as prima ballerina herself." That very night, the 2 ballerinas ate a slimming steak and spinach dinner and began planning their revenge. Meanwhile, back in New York, in spite of her aching feet and sore toes, Regine enjoyed being the prima donna. She loved being admired. "I'm the queen now," she thought. She wore expensive clothes and acted as she thought a prima ballerina should act. She even pinned a huge star on her dressing room door. Then one afternoon, toward the end of the season, 2 figures dressed in black and carrying a large flat package slipped past the stage door receptionist and ran into the dark theater. "Are you all right, Annabella?" said the first figure. "Oui, oui, Flora," answered the second. They sneaked past the canteen and into Regine's dressing room. There, hidden in the corner of the closet, they found patterns, thread, and cutouts for all the tutus of the leading roles. "So she stole the costumes and copied them for herself," said Annabella. "On with the plan." Later that evening, just before Giselle, Regine found a large present on her dressing table. A note attached to it said, "From an admirer to a great ballerina assoluta." Regine, who loved admiration, immediately tore open the present and found a box filled with all sorts of expensive French perfumes. She was so flattered that she opened all of them at once. "Paris evening mist," she cried, sprinkling on the first. She pattered shimmering dew on her shoulders, sprayed diamond dreams behind her ears. The more Regine poured on, the gayer and more light-hearted she grew. Giselle was a nightmare. All the scents made Regine feel ill, and her eyelids could hardly stay open. Rodney pushed her through the performance, grunting, panting, and nearly fainting from the odors of mist, dew, and dreams. In the final act, Regine came face to face with two wood nymphs who looked just like Annabella Bambalova and Flora Flop. She was so shocked she bewrayed backwards, fell over a prop, and landed with her feet in the air. She was so dizzy she couldn't get up. The curtain fell, and so did Regine's reputation. "Oh no, what am I to do?" cried Cecile. "Take us back," cried two voices from the wings. Standing before him were Annabella and Flora, looking trim and fit. Cecile, Vasily, and Rodney stared in happy disbelief. The two ballerinas told of Regine's trickery, but Regine was nowhere to be found. The season continued with two happy ballerinas and two very happy partners, not to mention a very satisfied director, and the hit of the season was Pas de Quatre. As for Regine, she seemed to have learned her lesson. She opened a successful creperie near the Paris Opera. She loved the opera and imagined herself a diva. All day long she made crepes and sang arias to herself from all the operas. Everything seemed just fine. Then one day, the famous diva, Elisabetta Mozzoforte, made a grand entrance into the creperie.
Oh no! What do you think's gonna happen?
I don't know, but it doesn't look good for that opera singer. All right, thank you all so much for spending the last few minutes with me. I hope you enjoyed the story, and we hope to see you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.